Back on the Boulevard, Friday, April 28th. As always, here to prove to you there is no such thing as football season. We are presented by the Believe Network. 3 days of that 2023 NFL Draft on ESPN, now leading into the XFL playoffs. This is the weekend we think those casuals are going to tune in for the first time and watch some XFL playoff football. And what are they going to see? Well, Wade Phillips coaching against Bob Stoops in a Texas throwdown. They get to see Josh Gordon against DJ Swearinger, two former second-round picks in that NFL draft a lot of us have been watching this weekend. The first ever edition of the Playoff Beer Snake inside of Audi Field. Let's go. This is the weekend we've all been waiting for. 3-point conversions, 4th and 15 onside kick alternatives, shootout-style overtime in the playoffs potentially? Give us all of it. We love the XFL, and we know there is no such thing as football season. Going to be a special weekend in the league we love, so we had to bring you a Springball Boulevard special, the Playoff Palooza Special. Thank you for joining us live. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, put your questions in the chat. Guys, on one sideline, my DC Defenders, who I've loved dearly since August 21st of 2019 when they were born. 8-0 in the confines of our nation's capital, dating back to 2020. They can solidify themselves as the XFL's original dynasty when they go on to win a championship May 13th. Backed by the reckless, unforgiving fan base, the most unforgiving fan base in football. And on the other sideline, the producer, director, and the owner of the humble abode we call Studio Z, Chris Zuk. Are you ready for the playoffs? Let's go, baby. You and me against each other. Playoffs?
You're talking about playoffs?
See, I was going to refrain from that, but I knew one of us was going to end up doing it.
I couldn't help myself.
Zuk, it's going to downpour in DC Sunday. So not only will you be a loser, you'll be a soaking wet loser on Sunday. How do you prepare yourself mentally for this downfall?
So here's the thing. XFL Shop does not sell Sea Dragon ponchos. So I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do something.
Just cut up a garbage bag because that would be a good mascot for the Dragons this Sunday. I told you guys it's Zook Hate Week. We're going to be throwing it back and forth the whole show. But isn't this awesome? Isn't this what you wanted to see?
Yes.
You wanted to see Zook and I against each other, right? Well, you got it. All Friday night.
I'm taking that trash bag and I'm putting you in it because we're taking you to the trash.
0-2 against the DC Defenders. That's all I got to say. Third time will not be a charm for Ben DiNucci. On tonight's show, guys, we got to start it off with the Saturday night smackdown of the South. Remember, separated by just 250 of those Texas miles. Arlington meeting Houston for the third time this season. How can the Renegades silence that crowd? All of you on Twitter have been saying, no way they belong in at 4-6. Their path to silencing that crowd. We caught up with the King of Spring, who's looking to lead the Renegades to that major upset. Luis Perez will be joining us on Springball Series. And then we head north. DC, Seattle, Act 3, guys. This one sells itself. Zook and I going to be coming at each other's neck all night long. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. It just brings you that big game feel, this DC-Seattle game. And listen, you can go ahead and watch the last two meetings if you really aren't convinced yet that this is a big game. Ben DiNucci bringing the lemon allergy back. I'm sure he's seen the doctor since then, trying to get some kind of medication so he's not allergic to the lemons flying down from section 137. We'll wrap up the North with Barlow on the Boulevard. We wanted him all season. We got him for you guys. And of course, our Playoff Palooza best bets. Please drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Our PS5 giveaway is coming up. The results have been final as far as how many entries everybody gets because the regular season has concluded. Now, it's all up to fate. And next Thursday, we live will be drawing the winner of the Sony PlayStation 5. So stay tuned for that next Thursday during the Freshie Awards. So let's talk some football, Zook. Why not? XFL South title game, Saturday night in the Rig. Great news. Coming from the XFL League office today, we got the upgrade from ESPN2 to ESPN. which not only means the worldwide leader believes in the XFL, it means, no pun intended, by the way, it means they believe in the XFL enough to make the NFL draft the official lead-in to the XFL playoffs. So when you're watching round 7, we're going straight from Mr. Irrelevant into Wade Phillips coaching against Bob Stoops. And speaking of Wade Phillips, he might know a thing or two about the NFL draft. Remember, he took guys like Des Bryant, Sean Lee, who were stars for the Cowboys well after he left there. And think about Bob Stoops on the other sideline. 13 first-round draft picks of his own during his tenure at Oklahoma. Remember Adrian Peterson, Gerald McCoy, Lane Johnson, a guy Zuk knows well. So this is going to be a great coaching matchup. If you're looking for an excuse to watch more football, we have a treat for you. Wade Phillips against Bob Stoops. Zuk, let's take a look at the last 2 meetings for these teams. Back in week 2, the Roughnecks 23-14 win over the Renegades. I added the over late in this one. Zuk jumped on with me. We didn't have an official best bet, but we did have a late play. I don't know if it lived up to that game of the week expectations back in week 2 that we had. Only 37 combined points here. Houston kind of convinced everybody they were going to win it all after week 1, and I think everybody has taken a different stand at this point. Arlington had gutted out that second half comeback against Vegas in week 1. Then they got together week 2. The Houston defense was in the backfield all night. They sacked Drew Plitt. Yeah, remember Drew Plitt? He won't be a part of this matchup, but they sacked him 5 times. Houston had their special teams miscues that set Arlington up for those points that they got. Renegades that night managed just 125 yards of total offense in the loss. So on to week 9, different story. Actually, it was week 10. The matchup had potential playoff implications for that reason. However, San Antonio lost to DC, putting Arlington in the playoffs without having to win. So we can't hold too much stock in this game. Luis Perez did play the whole game, but I think Arlington was very conservative. They were settling for field goals, which has been an issue for them all season. They cannot have that in this one. Cole McDonald played the entire game at quarterback for Houston. Had a little bit of Caleb Ellaby in there, but you won't see him on Saturday night. Davion Smith was out in this game, so even though most of the defensive players on both sides started throughout the game in this one, I think you're going to get 2 way different teams than you saw in this matchup last week. So, Zuk, looking back at your best bet history so far, 3-0 betting the Houston Roughnecks. I think personally, you've picked your spots pretty well when it comes to Houston because they are 6-4 against the spread. So you've got them when they're beating the number. You have yet to back Bob Stoops, though. So I think I know kind of the way you're going in this matchup. Go ahead and sell us the Houston Roughnecks, not only winning this one for the XFL South title, but covering that 6.5 that we see on our graphic.
Yeah, well, it comes down to defense for sure. Couple things that you didn't mention about the previous games. Arlington only scored 23 points combined in both those games. Houston has put up 24 or 23 and 25.
Yeah.
So they're
Some
not
of those
scoring
on defense too.
And I know this week 10 game didn't mean a lot. However, the stats don't lie. You know what I mean? So we're going to look at this Houston defense a little bit closer. I mean, they led the league in sacks, 35. They have 4 scoop and scores, which is clearly first place in the league.
Big game.
Second in picks with 12. And tackle for loss with 58. I mean, that is crazy. That's they're putting fear into quarterbacks.
That's that Phillips 3-4, baby.
Right? Exactly. Speaking of quarterbacks, this is the main thing for me. They have turned the ball over 11 times, which is second in the league. Only DiNucci.
Yeah, I knew you were going to come in with that.
Only DiNucci takes care of that, takes the first prize in there. So, like, to me, it comes down to Houston's defense. Are they going to be able to hold the Arlington offense to the same amount of points they are?
Right.
If you go back to the Week 10 game, I forgot to say this, Week 10 game, Arlington did put up 245 yards.
Yeah, they got better.
But they scored less points.
They just settled for field goals.
They scored 5 less points.
Yeah.
So that's concerning. And then the defense also has to take care of the offensive mistakes, which I think they can. This is pretty much a no-brain pick for me. You already know what side I'm on. So,
are you concerned Brandon Silvers could lose it for you?
No, because something I also didn't mention is Houston doesn't get a lot of credit for their run game, but they are third in the league, I believe, with 900 some yards.
Yeah.
I think that they will pound the ball a little bit more.
Good running backs.
Same thing. 13. They have 13 rushing TDs.
Yeah, between Borghi, Alleen, you had Jeremy Cox showing out last week. They do have a deep running back room.
So what does that tell you? 13 TDs in 10 games. When they get in the red zone, they are scoring.
Yeah.
So
they like to throw Cole in down there, run a little RPO. They're pretty good on their conversions because they have that package. Yeah, I mean, we're going to assume Brandon Silvers gets the start here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Has to.
So
but
I mean,
Cole McDonald will play.
Yes. Think. Oh yeah, he will. He'll have his packages like normal. I think when it comes down to it, Houston checks all the boxes for me. I'm not scared of the 6.5. So I mean,
are we less confident on Houston than we were after the first half of the season?
No, because we kind of dogged them for the last few weeks. 4 or 5 weeks that their offense hasn't been there. They still average 24.7 points per game.
Right.
And they've only not gotten to 20 against Seattle, St. Louis, San Antonio.
Right.
So the offense is there. I think the problem is in the beginning, everybody hyped them up that they're going to be the best offense in the league, and they were.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they went down.
They were number one in our power poll for a solid 2 weeks before I threw DC above them. And then week 6, they just started to spiral offensively, but that defense has kept them in games. Let me play devil's advocate here, though, for Zuk, as we're going to do for both games. On the Bob Stoops side of things, first off, 6.5, way too high for a playoff game in this league. It makes me wonder, are the sportsbooks expecting some chaos with that Houston defense creating havoc, creating turnovers that then lead to scores? Zuk just told you, 4 scooping scores this year, and they all came in the last couple weeks. So, don't sleep on Arlington's ability to create turnovers either now. Zuk said Houston is second in the league in picks. Who do you think first is? Arlington with 13. He also said Houston with the forced fumbles. Arlington with 9 of their own. 22 takeaways for this defense, and they've also housed 2 pick sixes and a fumble back to pay dirt. So Brandon Silvers, who is interception prone, we know that, cost us some money this year. Better be careful in this matchup. We know these defenses are stout, and you're going to get great games from each side. That's why the total is 41.5, pretty low for a playoff game, compared to DC Seattle at 48.5 in the pouring rain. Right? It doesn't matter. Houston, Arlington expected to play in the low 40s, high 30s. I want to talk a bit about the potential of the Arlington offense for a second. So go ahead, roll that first graphic for me here, Zuk. This is the team that for the first half of the season, I refer to as the Arlington Renegades, and boy, were they. Asking them for points in the first half of the season was like Rod Woodson asking Dean Blandino to overturn a call. It just was not happening, guys, for the Renegades. Look at this. They scored. This is actually the first 7 games you could take. They scored 8 offensive touchdowns in 7 games. They could barely manage 11.5 points per game, 167 average pass yards per game. So they weren't even near 200. And look at the touchdown to interception. This is passing. 4 touchdowns passing versus 9 picks for Drew Plitt and Kyle Sloter, which those 2 names, it seems like forever ago that they even were on this roster. So during this 5-game stretch, or actually the first 5 games of the season we'll take, they were a 1-4 team against the spread. But they did enough to keep their head above water and keep swimming and keep themselves in the playoff race. They were easily last in the league in both passing and rushing at this point. But Bob Stoops stuck with his guy, Jonathan Hayes, when other OCs in the league were on the way out. You remember Dwayne Taylor got the out in Vegas, relieved of his duties. Jamie Elizondo relieved of his duties in San Antonio. Stoops stuck with his guy, Jonathan Hayes, and along came Luis Perez. Hit that next one for me, Zook. So let's look at the comparison. In Luis's 3 games starting, you might not see much of a difference, right? Outside of pass yards per game. Almost 80 more than they were doing in the first 7 games. But they have improved their points per game by almost a touchdown. I know 11.5 to 16 doesn't seem like much, but remember, what's the point spread here? 6.5. So if I'm getting a team that is 5.5 points per game better with this quarterback you see on your screen who we're about to talk to coming up in Springball Series, I'll take the 6.5 with Arlington. They're throwing less picks. Obviously, the 1 passing touchdown isn't great, but only 2 picks in 3 games for Perez. The pick 6 in the DC game is clearly the one that upset Bob Stoops. You heard him on the live mic scolding Brandon Arconato, the wide receiver, and telling Perez live on the air, that's not on you. So we can almost take one of those interceptions away. Guys, it's not crazy to say the Arlington Renegades were better than the DC Defenders that day that they played. And DC did enough to squeak out a win. They came storming back in the 4th quarter. The defense made stops. They created turnovers like they have all season against a team who takes care of the ball well in DC. So here's my point with all this. There's 2 ways that this can go on Saturday night. If Arlington executes offensively and plays their best ball, which they have against the DC Defenders, I think they have a similar outcome to that game. Arlington's ceiling is to play Houston within a field goal, 1 or 2. Even at their best, I don't know if this team is talented enough to have it all ride on Luis Perez. I think their ceiling is to come down to the end of the game with a chance to win it on the final possession, and we'll see what happens because crazy things happen in this league, right? The other way this could go is Arlington could be burnt toast by the 4th quarter if things get out of hand for them, like they have in the last 2 matchups. So Luis Perez, we know he's going to take his fair share of hits. That Houston defense is coming. They're without Tim Ward, but they will have Trent Harris, Emmanuel Ellerbe, and some of those defensive studs that Zook went on to highlight. You find Sal Cannella in the pass game. You mix in a good dose of the run. Get back to that offensive balance, right, that you wanted coming into the season. They can be in this game with a chance to win at the end. And Zook, I'm taking Houston outright. I don't think no matter what Arlington does, they can win this game. I don't want a 4-6 team in the XFL championship game, right? So I'm taking Houston, but I'm taking the points. 6.5, Arlington, far too many. I don't know. I hate messing with official scores, but this is a 22-21 for me type of deal here. I think that Arlington will cover the spread.
Yeah, I don't see it. I'm taking Houston straight up. You'll see later. I'm also taking.
Yeah, I guess not to ruin our best bets, but you see the way we're going with these games, and of course, Arlington getting a 3rd shot at Houston, the same way Seattle getting a 3rd shot at DC. So you see both of these games and how they set up. I just feel like a touchdown or more, if that's going to happen, you better get a defensive touchdown, Zook. Because I don't know if Houston's offense is capable of putting this game away.
I think they are. I think one thing that you're lacking in your argument is that Houston's defense is better than DC's. So,
yeah, see, you're right. The pass defense has been better. I think the schemes are comparable with what Houston likes to do to rush the passer. We know Perez is going to get hit.
Well,
right?
And the other thing is Arlington is not running the ball any more effectively with or without Perez.
Yeah.
They are passing the ball better, but you would think that the pass would open up the run, and it hasn't.
Yeah, I think Arlington, their identity, they wanted to be this balanced offense where A.J. Smith wanted to throw it 60 times a game.
Sure.
Arlington has not executed that balanced attack. They're now leaning on the pass. When they played against DC, 335 passing yards for Perez. They did not run the ball well. So Davion Smith is going to get his share of carries. We'll see what he can do with them. But that's our thought on that one, guys. And listen, we talked a ton so far about Luis Perez revitalizing this Renegades offense with his trade from Vegas. So let's bring him on. The King of Spring on the Boulevard. Enjoy Luis Perez, and we'll be right back to break down the North Championship game on Springball Boulevard. Well, he threw for over 5,000 yards in his college career and now just eclipsed that in his pro career. He's thrown touchdowns to what seems like a million different receivers from Chula Vista, California to Commerce, Texas, now back in the Lone Star State with the XFL's Arlington Renegades. Quarterback Luis Perez. Luis, welcome to Springball Boulevard. Thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, about a month ago exactly, Luis, coming off a loss to St. Louis at home, you are traded from the Vegas Vipers to the Arlington Renegades. When you first got the news that this deal was done, what was your reaction?
It wasn't like it was shocking news. It was kind of a mutual decision that kind of went down. That's what people don't really know. It was kind of a mutual decision to part ways. Again, I respect Coach Woodson. I love Coach Woodson to death. He's awesome. But at that time, in that moment, it was better for me to make it happen to come here to Arlington.
Yeah, and I think the trade did work out for you. Obviously, you win your first game as a starter. Then you come out, you engineer what was a magical fourth quarter against DC, falling just short of that comeback, but probably playing your best game of the season. You guys were heavy underdogs in that. Half the crowd had left. Nobody even realized that DC could have lost that game. So that was incredible. I know you could play in any offense, but what are the key differences you think in the system you ran in Vegas for the first half of the season versus what you're running now?
They're pretty similar. Terminology is a little bit different, but as far as the scheme wise, it was pretty much same. I mean, everybody kind of runs the same plays in a sense. Maybe you read it a little bit differently here and there. You call it something different here, but a four-man slide for the O-line is a four-man slide, whether you call it Roger, whether you call it Rock, it doesn't matter, right? It's still football. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me just throughout my whole career is just adapting to so many different offenses throughout my career and just kind of putting it all together and saying, oh, you know what, this is what we ran here, and just kind of putting it all together.
Absolutely. And obviously, you guys as a team had your ups and downs in Vegas, but I always thought that team was loaded at wide receiver. I know Jeff Badette was a star. Sinque Sweeting was starting to break out. Obviously, had the veterans with Allison and Bryant, and then Sean Price at tight end. But I think the Renegades get slept on a little bit at that receiver position. Obviously, you have Sal Cannella, who's an all XFL tight end for sure. What about some of the other guys in this receiving core who maybe don't get as much love as the guys in Vegas were getting?
Yeah, Lawan, TV. I mean, shoot, Caleb, Brandon, you got JP, you got Speedy, you got all these guys that just make plays, man. They all rotate and they all get a lot of playing time, but they all have kind of their strengths, and they all do a great job, man. We hold meetings all the time in my room, and every single one's there. They're all attentive. They're all wanting to get better. So that's encouraging to see, and I'm just excited for those guys to put on a good game here on Saturday.
Yeah, it's really cool to see all the options. It seems like a different guy will step up every game, where some other teams in the league, obviously they have their go-to receivers. With the Renegades, you never know who's going to step up. So it's a very deep receiving core. Let's go ahead and let's scout Houston a little bit. You got your first crack at them last week. Obviously, you didn't get to see them when you were with Vegas. So you play them last week, a little bit less on the line. Obviously, you're without your starting running back in Davion Smith and some different things going on. Now the chance to really find your spots. What are the Houston strengths that you think you can prepare for, and what are some of the weaknesses that you can maybe exploit?
So I would say this: they have a very good defense. Up front, they're really good. At linebacker, they're fast, and at DB, they're very well experienced and they're good players. What I was telling the guys this week and what Coach emphasized was, hey, it's really about us. It's not really about what they do. It's about executing our plays to the highest of their potential. And if you go back and watch the tape, you see that there's a lot of things that we can clean up that will make us a lot better. So I think that's very encouraging to see. So I think the big emphasis this week is not really about Houston. It's really about us executing.
Picking it up here, you talk about Coach Stoops, right? And what he's telling the team, and obviously Coach Hayes as well. I've always thought during the XFL season, this is a staff that really stuck together. And talking to Coach Stoops about all the old days with him and Coach Hayes and all the different coaches on this staff, how Bob Stoops has known them his entire life. Seems like some other teams in the league, obviously you went through it in Vegas where Dwayne Taylor was let go week 2 or 3. And, you had connections in Arlington where even when the offense wasn't great that first half of the year before you got there, they all stuck together and found a way to do it without firing anybody or letting anybody go. What has it been like with Coach Stoops? You guys are both college football national champions at different levels, right? What has it been like to play for a winner like that? And what have you learned from Coach Stoops?
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, and you said it, man. He's a winner. He's a winner. He demands winning, and I think his winning culture is starting to spread out. Guys are believing. Guys are seeing that, hey, man, there's a lot of potential on this team, and we can get it done. And just talking about the offensive staff, like you said, they all, they were in St. Louis in the XFL, most of them in 2020, and you can see it. You can see that these guys have worked together. These guys know how to communicate with each other, know how to get what they want to get done. And yeah, no, honestly, it's been great here.
Awesome. And I want to get your thoughts on the level of play in XFL 2023, because I think you have a better perspective as far as spring leagues than a lot of guys do. From a talent standpoint, all the spring leagues that you've played in, including the first version of the XFL back in 2020, does this feel to you like the toughest and the biggest challenge to play in is from a talent standpoint?
That's kind of a tough question because I'm also growing as a player, right? So back in 2019 when I was in the AAF or 2020 when I was in the XFL, I'm not the player I am now, so it's maybe it was challenging back then, and if I was playing now then it wouldn't be as challenging. Those are questions that are hard to answer. I would say though that the level of competition here has been very good. And I think, you can just see it. You can see the hunger on everybody that's on there on the field that, they want to make it. They want to make it happen. They want to make it to the big leagues or whatever the why is. But yeah, honestly, the level of competition has been really good.
Yeah, there are moments where you're seeing that, where everything's on the line and the effort that you get. Like I go back to that 4th and 15 play. And I think one of our candidates for play of the year in DC, you got one arm tied behind your back. Canella's coming across the field. You find him. That allowed that game to go on in different levels. And even the NFL, we don't get a chance for a team to get the ball back there. And that made that game real interesting coming down to the finish there against a really tough defense in DC. Luis, I got to get one more for you before you get out of here. Obviously, I saw in training camp, a lot of guys were hitting up the local bowling alley. I know probably everybody asked you this. Everybody was going on the team outings on their days off. Did you participate in those, or did you just say, hey, I can't do it because I'm just going to tear everybody up?
No, I actually did go one time. I went with the Player 54 episode, asked me to go out, and we went to go bowl. So that was fun to get out there. I hadn't bowled in a long time, so it was good to get out there.
Yeah, I was wondering if your teammates knew at that point that you had the bowling career in the past, or if you told anybody. I'm sure they were like, wow, it makes me look great.
Yeah, no, a lot of guys kind of know, just from, again, every league I've played in, and it's down over the internet. So guys kind of already know that.
Yeah, I had to bring it up. I had to mention it for last. But obviously the most important thing is the football. Thank you, Luis Perez, for joining us. Obviously, huge playoff game. You guys will be in Houston. So much history there with Wade Phillips now coaching a playoff game back in Houston. Bob Stoops now going down. It's going to be a Texas throwdown. You're used to playing in the state. We can't wait for it. Thank you, Luis Perez, for joining us. We appreciate it. And good luck on Saturday night.
Appreciate you.
Back here on the Boulevard. Thank you, Luis Perez, about a show out on Saturday night in the Rig XFL South Championship game. We hope you enjoyed our preview on that one. Again, make sure drop a like on the video if you're here with us live. If you're watching back, whenever you're hearing us on podcast, whatever you're doing, drop us a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure we got the Freshie Awards coming up next Thursday here on Springball Boulevard. All of our XFL postseason honors. But before we get to the postseason, we have another game to talk about, and I haven't been more excited to talk about an XFL game than this one all season. The North title game. We got the bread and butter on the table out of the way. That was Arlington, Houston, right? Now the hot entrees come out. You got your filet mignon against your lobster tail. Who's going to win this one? Well, two of the best XFL games you've seen all season were between Seattle and DC. And because of that, Zuk, we got to head back to the District of Columbia for the first time since week 3. And listen, unlike then, we're not going to have sunny skies and 60 degrees and a little spring breeze in the air. This is going to be some football weather. Downpours I heard wind gusts up to 25 miles an hour. Zook's going to be out in the elements.
I am.
I will shy away from that.
I'm going to love every second of it.
Listen, Zook's a Seattle guy. It rains all the time, right? So remember, though, the Dragons don't practice in Seattle. So they practice in Texas. So not as much rain. But, you know, it might affect the crowd a little bit. We don't care. We're coming for the playoff beer snake. Listen to this, Zook. This is all I got to say. Before you pipe up, a wet ball is not a good ball for Ben DiNucci. DC is 2-0 in the rain so far this season. The beer snake is waterproof. And if I know Ben DiNucci, he's going to be like a house cat in a bathtub on Sunday. He's not going to like that rain. Take the floor, Chris Zook.
I'm just excited that you're letting me out of the studio.
Put it up on the poll. Should Zook be allowed out of the studio?
I'm going. It doesn't matter. I'm revolting. I have my ticket.
Well, I thought I was in charge.
Not anymore.
Boulevard Bull Tour, rolling strong. We had great stops. I think this is stop number 7 or 8 on the tour, and we might have another one for you. We'll see how it goes. By the way, Zook, I would say yes is the betting favorite at -110 for us to come out of this with a show on Monday. But if you're smart, you'll sprinkle no. Because the way that this may go, if somebody has to sit in the rain to watch their team lose to the other team, I don't think it's going to go well.
I'm just glad we're driving separate.
We're doing everything separate. I'm not even talking to Zook on Sunday. Get out of my face, Zook. Let's preview this game. So, let's take a look at the last 2 meetings here because they're important to note. We told you back in the preview show, week 8, it was going to be a night and day ball game from the week 1 version. And it wasn't. Week 1, DC rides several game-changing plays on defense to a 22-18 win in Audi Field. 93 passing yards that night. Can you believe that? Seems like forever ago. But they forced 3 turnovers. 1 pick 6 and a flip from Mike Joe, what you just saw. He had another one that set DC up in the red zone. De'Aaron King punches it in. But what it all came down to, when Big Anthony Hines met Ben DiNucci at the goal line, knocked that magic bean loose, Jamal Brooks fell on it, sayonara Sea Dragons. That was the end of it. 20 seconds left in the game when that happened. They lost, and yes, I can admit, as a DC Defenders fan, that the Sea Dragons were better that night. But it doesn't matter, because yardage doesn't win football games. Well, in week 8, Seattle wasn't going down like that. By the way, DiNucci threw it 54 times in week 1, still a record. Jordan Ta'amu had to take matters into his own hands in this film you're watching right now. 247, 4 touchdowns, no picks for the MVP candidate a few weeks ago. Chris Blair, who had 1 target in the first meeting, goes off. 5 catches, 148 yards, and the game-winning touchdown, which you'll see here in a bit. Man, he shook Bryce Thompson, galloped 70 yards, 2 pay dirt. Fun fact, the Sea Dragons outgained DC in both of those matchups. I think you probably already knew that. Like we said, yardage does not win football games. There was a point in the season where Seattle was incapable of scoring touchdowns inside the 40-yard line. That has changed. They have fixed the red zone woes against St. Louis and Vegas. They are now punching it in when they get down there. So credit Seattle there. Where they now have a third opportunity to make the last 2 not matter for squat. Will they take advantage of it? Zook, the moment you've been waiting for the last 10 weeks, not only do you get to leave the studio and go to your first XFL 2023 game, now the floor is yours to tell us whatever you'd like about your Seattle Sea Dragons. Take it away.
Oh, man, I love this segment. This is my favorite. So I know, yes, yards don't win games. What I will say is, I've been saying this for a while, both games were only 5 points. We're talking about 5 points. A couple possessions here and there. Combined. So one thing I want to, the week 1 matchup,
Put the X over it.
we're all just trying to get acclimated into the league. I'm scratching that. But I am going to highlight.
Even if Seattle won, by the way, I hope you'd have that same.
I also agree. I mean, it would mean a lot more if it was a season split.
It was a wacky game.
But there was a lot of mistakes going on in that game. I'm not judging them off the first 3 weeks of their season at all, especially when they start 0-2. All right, so, but the week 8 game, Seattle racks up 301 pass yards, but the stat that jumped out to me was third down conversions. They were 30%. Yeah. We know they're way better than that. We sit here and watch those games.
3rd and 5 and above, maybe.
And we talk, like 3rd and 1, no good.
Yeah.
3rd and long, great. So I think that efficiency is going to go up for sure.
Right.
Also, they scored 6 points in the first half. That's unheard of for the best offensive team, right?
Yeah. Looked like the under in the first half of that game.
Yeah.
They scored 30 combined in the fourth.
So I just don't see them only scoring 6 points again. Now, we get into the second half of that game. I feel like June figured something out. He made some kind of adjustments. They absolutely gashed your secondary. The only problem with that is they scored so too quick. DC has 65 offensive snaps, and Seattle's just scoring the ball couple play drives.
Yep.
So we got a tired defense.
Defense got tired.
It's tough. So the two things.
That changed against St. Louis. They changed the way they play.
So, I mean, right now, Ben DiNucci has the most confidence and swag in the league. And why not? You got this group of 5 guys. It's crazy. So, I mean, Peasy, number 1 in yards. Josh, number 6. Jackson, number 9. Green, number 11. In the league, yards.
Yeah. Touchdowns ain't bad either.
You got
Juwan Green has a few.
And they're spread. There's nobody that's really throwing it out there. But, I mean, Jackson and Green are having the benefit of everybody covering Pearson and Gordon.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, why wouldn't you be cocky and looking at players sideways?
Blake Jackson a little banged up now. A little shoulder injury.
Okay, well, next man up,
right? Keep an eye
on it. We want to take a look at Ben's stats. I mean, they speak for themselves.
Where's the turnovers?
We didn't include that in the graphic. Why don't you just pipe down now over there?
No, he's been great in his own right.
He has, and again, it all comes with confidence. And I think because he has that swag, it's like oozing to the rest of the team. Everybody else it's infectious, right? So that's huge. And then we're gonna flip sides of the ball and go to the defense. When you got this guy running around, making plays. I mean, look at his stats. I don't have to get into them.
It's a Freshie Award for the quarterback nightmare midseason.
So, and you're looking at Seattle's defense is very underrated, in my opinion. What did we determine? They first in points against?
First scoring defense in the league.
First in points against?
You're going up against the total scoring offense. That's number 1.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's fine.
Checkmate.
Man,
34-33. Do we get this many points again?
I think we do. I think it's going to be a shootout.
Even in the rain, huh?
Yeah, you have to. But anyways, like I said, I think June has figured something out. He's going to have success. I'm trying to get through this segment without the emotion.
Oh, wow.
But here's the thing. So we're talking about rain, a lot of rain. Seattle also doesn't get credit for their run game.
Run game?
Yeah, they don't. They actually have. I think I misspoke earlier. Houston's second in the league. Seattle's
that was
third
Juice
in the
Ellison,
league.
though. You got to admit.
Okay, I get that. But the other discount that nobody's giving them is they have a quick hitter, screen game, get the ball out fast.
That is a substitute for
that is the substitute for their run game.
That's a good point.
So as long as we're successful there and DiNucci doesn't turn the ball over.
Big if.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Bad memories for Ben.
Stop
Walking
it.
Back in that stadium again.
Anyways, yeah, there's a stat. 962 yards they have on the ground. That's not that bad. I mean, DC's the best, and they only have, 500 more yards?
Yeah, something like that.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, they got to protect the ball.
DiNucci's racked up a lot of rushing yards. I would have liked to see his total. It's got to be, 350, 400 probably
right.
At this point.
And so we get back to something I know you commented with watching the games with me is, man, do they lay the hits?
Yeah.
Right? Which also caused 9 forced fumbles. 8 of them they got.
Yeah.
And that's the only category. I mean, interception-wise, they don't do a lot of that. They're not pushing. But that forced fumbles, and it's because they're hitting it. So maybe a couple whacks in the beginning, and DC receivers start to get a little
It's weird from Bryce Thompson, right? Because
Right.
he missed the tackle. And there was a debate. Are you letting him score? Whatever. He missed the tackle against Chris Blair, which ultimately lost the game at the end.
Right.
Bryce Thompson came back, shadowed Darius Shepard the entire game against St. Louis, laid multiple hits on him. He could not get open. And Darius Shepard is a damn good receiver that they could not use because he was neutralized by Bryce Thompson. The same way that Michael Joseph ignited DC's season by that pick 6 you saw in week 1, that week 8 game changed everything for Seattle going into the dome and building the confidence the way they did. I mean, we're talking 30-12 here. It wasn't even close. A lot of people were thinking that was going to be a close game. It was not. I think that's changed everything. So after all those chill vibes from Zuk and the hipster horde of dragons in Dragonland or Dragon Tales, whatever you want to call it over there, let's lay down the damn law. We make the laws in the District of Columbia, and that's not going to stop on Sunday. So enjoy church and get out to Audi Field. Here's the reality, guys, in the XFL North Championship game. Once Seattle steps into that stadium on Sunday afternoon, and they're dragging their feet in the Audi Field mud puddles that are going to be across that Bermuda grass. We've seen it before. And they look up in the sky, and they see the dark cloud just hanging over that place. It's quickly going to set in. You aren't throwing the ball for 400 yards. So how are you going to beat DC? Well, there's other ways, of course. You might have steady winds of 10 miles an hour with gusts up to 25. You might have receivers on ice skates out there, not able to keep their footing. But players play better in certain occasions when these games start to go on and adjustments start to get made, as Zuk pointed out. So can they adjust to the rain, is I guess what I'm saying. So no, I'm not dumb enough to conclude here that weather conditions are going to totally decide the outcome of the game. I think they could affect the first half, specifically the first quarter, until players start to adjust, maybe change their spikes a little bit. But it definitely can factor in. Weather plays a factor here. So the defenses, what do we know about these two? DC scores more than anyone. They put up 30 points a game. I just covered that with Zuk. Seattle allowing the fewest in the league, 17.7 points per game. So go ahead and bring up that graphic, Zuk. This is going to be the key. DC defenders, both sides of the ball, balanced attack. Look at some of these guys here. Michael Joseph. I credited him with the play that ignited the season. These are grades by Pro Football Focus, the highest 5 on the team. And we're going to get into these a little bit more as we go on. I wanted to show you guys it's players on both sides of the ball in almost every position unit. You have defensive backfield quarterbacks, a receiver, a linebacker, and the second level of that defense with Gardner, and the offensive line has just been so damn good. Let's look at the next one here, Zuk. This is the touchdown trio that I wanted to get to. Jordan Ta'amu is an MVP candidate. Through the air and on the ground, accounted for 17 touchdowns. He is the definition of a dual threat quarterback. He fits the system perfectly, and he executes these RPOs to perfection this season. It's off the charts how good this short pass game has been. Just a well-oiled machine. And sure, they'll take a little hit from the rain in the pass game, just like Seattle will. But good luck stacking the box, because Jordan will beat you over the top if he has to. And what Jackson and Blair can do after the catch has been phenomenal. Above all else, this offense's ability to score touchdowns in the red zone is what has won them games. They do it better than any team in the league. If they're down inside the 10, inside the 5, they score touchdowns. And they've been really good in the conversion game as well for those extra points. They do it at the highest clip I've seen maybe since the 2021 Packers, who were just running Devontae Adams around and scoring touchdowns. And I took that for granted. So DC, got to keep that up. Heavy dose of Abram Smith, I think you'll see. because we're not going to have any more Raquel Armstead. You'll hear from Reggie Barlow coming up on his release and how DC is going to kind of approach that running back room in the playoffs. We'll have more on that in a second. But it hurts a little less to lose your second running back when you've got De'Aaron King. De'Aaron King will be a factor in this game, as he has in every other game this season. And he'll be tasked with taking care of the ball, which he's got to do a little better job of. Some of his lone weaknesses revolve around the turnovers. So, like we said, De'Aaron King, highest graded player on offense, according to Pro Football Focus. DC wasn't necessarily effective running the ball in the Week 8 meeting. I think they had 87 total yards, just around 2.5 yards a carry. Not going to cut it. I think the defenders have actually ran the ball well against every other team but Seattle. They didn't run it well in Week 1 either. So I'm thinking here, Seattle, below average production in the pass game. DC, below average production in the run game. Take from it what you will. When it comes to special teams, the kickers, Eberle on Seattle's side, McCrane on DC's side, 2 of the best 4 in the league, for sure. They're all XFL guys. Both sides have some explosive return men. We saw Puka Williams rip off an 80-yard return last week. Kelvin McKnight has been a highlight reel for Seattle. Special teams will matter in this game. Seattle has blocked some punts as well, Zuk. Your guy, Tuzar Skipper, who you highlighted, has been in there to block punts. This is going to be a weird day on special teams, and I know we don't highlight it a lot, but when that ball is wet, it'll start bouncing around on special teams. Going to have to make sure the long snappers are on point, the punters are on point. You don't want any muff punts on either side. Whew. If I didn't have my heart set on my defenders going out and scoring 60 in this one, I'd probably take the under if I was completely unbiased. I think 48.5 is a little out of control. Once you see the weather conditions, I think it'll get bet down a little bit. But of course, I got DC to win. I got DC to cover. They're great against the spread. This is our moment. 8-0 in Audi Field, dating back to 2020. Let's make it 9-0. Let's get the playoff beer snake in there. The road to the Alamo Dome starting Sunday. Shields up. Period. Go.
Clearly, I'm picking Seattle. I'm so glad. Here's a week that Matt and I don't agree on much, and I love it.
I don't think we agreed on anything.
We agreed that Houston would win money line, basically.
Well, at minus 300, yeah. I'll give
So
it
here's the thing. I wanna have a little rebuttal on what you said about DC. We are gonna stack the box.
Go for it.
And you haven't run the ball well against Seattle.
Take away the run.
And for the same reasons you're saying that Seattle's not going to throw the ball well, what makes you think Jordan will?
You throw deep. We throw short.
Okay. But
better chance of Tomu getting that ball out.
Sure. Maybe. But they're probably the best tackling team in the league. You won't see it in the stats, and I tried to find it so I could highlight it.
They weren't week 1.
I tried to find it so I could highlight it, but what do we talk about all the time when we're watching games? Oh, here we go. Great tackle. Great tackle. Great tackle. I'm like a broken record sitting in here watching the games. Great tackle. Great tackle.
It wasn't like that all
There's
year.
not a lot of
Last
yards
couple
after
weeks,
cut.
for
There's
sure
not
it
a
was.
lot of yak.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean,
guys, it's going to be a great game. We are delighted to both be able to go to see this in person. Thank you to both sides. Great staffs in both DC and Seattle, as well as the league office, for giving us the opportunity to go to this game together. And we will be separated. We will not be sitting together for reasons because we have an obligation to the Believe Network to have shows.
I wouldn't want to sit with you anyways. It's bad enough watching a game on the couch with you.
If you see Chris Zuk in his dumb-looking orange poncho
I will have an orange
in the
poncho.
fourth quarter, when DC's up about 36-18, I'd say,
Wow.
and he's hoping on some 4th and 15 nonsense and, you know, a conversion from the 25-yard line.
36-18, so you're going to say the over's hitting, huh? That's what I caught out of that.
By the way, can we point out that just that moment, one of my favorite moments of the XFL season, Week 8, Seattle can't get a measly yard on a 3-point conversion try that would have won them that game ultimately.
Okay, well, they made a mistake.
Get one from the 25.
They made a mistake, and they didn't put Lindsey in.
That's true. And Darius Bradwell no longer with Seattle.
So here's another thing. I didn't talk about this, but I should have.
Mm-hmm. Phillip
Lindsey is probably now finally in game shape.
Yeah, he did say he hadn't played a game in a while.
Right. Dude's what?
If you watch Player 54, I don't know if you saw it yet. It was hilarious.
I didn't get to.
On Phillip Lindsey's first play from scrimmage, Greg Williams comes over and tells Francis Bernard, the quarterback of our defense, if 30 in orange is out there on the first snap, they're going swing pass screen. It happened.
Wow.
Greg Williams knew, even with the Broncos, what Phillip Lindsey was used for. You said substituting the run with that swing pass game.
Right.
Williams saw it coming. This June Jones versus Greg Williams matchup is a football IQ heaven.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a chess match all day between two guys who have been around the sport forever and have had so much success on their respective sides of the ball. So we'll see. I mean, I can't wait for that matchup. If I had to guess, the defenses are going to be hitting hard, and you're going to hear some crunching hits on the broadcast.
Oh my God.
By the way, I want to say,
you know that players are getting warned in this one. There's going to be some scrums.
Right.
And hopefully, I mean, nobody gets any suspensions for the championship game.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this yet, but ESPN is giving us an alternative broadcast on ESPN Plus. No broadcast. It's just going to be game audio. So you're going to get one with natural sound, quarterback to coach communication, defensive coordinators, no game audio from the play-by-play or the color commentator or the sideline reporters.
That's awesome.
Sounds of the game.
No dump button either.
I don't know about that.
That's what I want. I'm watching that.
That's on.
I'm rewatching that.
Yeah, that's on ESPN X. But yeah, they also have a Skycam view that they're going to give us if you just want to watch the broadcast with the game announcers with just the Skycam. I could do without that view. It's okay on replays and stuff.
Right.
But I don't want to watch a whole game like that and feel like I'm playing Madden. You know, I could do that on video games. But no, I think I will. When we watch this game back, I will partake in the sounds of the game. That sounds awesome. Really get to know every single call. We love the broadcasters, don't get us wrong, but we want to hear that game sound as well. So that is our Seattle DC preview. Everything on the line for Zuk and I this weekend. Our professional relationship, our friendship, maybe our health. Who knows? Yeah,
it could be health because we forgot to throw in. We are having a matchup against each other, so there will be some kind of punishment for the loser.
To be determined.
Sorry about that.
We got to hash that out. Haven't reached an agreement yet, but we will. You know we will. And like I said, yes, the betting favorite right now for us to have a show -110 Monday.
How's that go? My people are talking to his people.
Yeah. And we sit here 2 feet from each other.
We'll sign a contract at a later date.
Well, we promised you Reggie Barlow on the Boulevard. I wanted to sit down and speak with Coach all year after we got a chance to speak with a lot of different DC Defenders players. You think we had Coach Keiss on at one point. We talked to Reggie Northrup. We talked to Josh Hammond. We had a lot of guys from DC join the show. This is their boss. Always staying humble and kind. Reggie Barlow on the Boulevard. Enjoy the XFL Head Coach of the Year. And we'll be right back to give you our Boulevard Best Bets Playoff Palooza edition. Well, before the season began, odds makers had already counted him out. They said he never coached in the pros before, that his roster wasn't capable of making an XFL title run, and that his team was a long shot. Well, now atop the XFL standings at 9-1 and gearing up to host the first playoff football game inside the district since 1991, DC Defenders head coach Reggie Barlow. Welcome to Springball Boulevard, and thank you for joining us today, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, man. We're excited about it and looking forward to speaking with you.
Awesome. So right off the top, congratulations. The fruits of your labor have been plentiful this season. You always preach, stay humble, stay kind. You have other core values. Is there something other than your 9-1 record this year that you can take away from the XFL 2023 regular season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we experienced some success and had some wins, but there's a lot that comes with that. One, you got to populate your organization with good people. I think Von Hutchins, who's our director of player personnel, who really helped and assembled this team, this talent. Ms. Stacy, our team operations, our coaches, right, the coordinators, they've done a good job of managing the game, putting these guys in good spots to make plays. And then, of course, our players have just really gelled together. They've taken coaching. They've kind of taken on our personalities as coaches, where they don't blank, they don't become rattled. It's just, let's play the play, let it have a life of its own, and then let's play the next play.
Absolutely. Loving the hoodie, by the way. Should have mentioned that in the intro. I'm just noticing it now. That's amazing. We're going to get into some beer snake talk later. We got to talk some X's and O's. And before we talk offensive and defensive background from your side and kind of what led you guys to this place, let's scout Seattle a little bit. So number one total offense in the league with June Jones running the show. They played standout the last 2 weeks on defense after seeing you guys. What are the Seattle strengths that you guys have to prepare for, and what are the weaknesses that you can maybe exploit?
Yeah, they're playing with a lot of confidence, and that's half of the battle right there is once you're playing with a bunch of confidence. Now, their defensive front, 7, mainly their front 4 guys, those guys are really good. They play the game the right way. They're physical, they're big, they're strong. So they've done a great job with their roster. Obviously, you mentioned their offense, which, that's to be expected. June Jones is, the legend, and he's always had really good offense. The quarterback is managing the game the right way. So, we have to be extremely detailed in our approach, the things that we're going to do. Obviously, playing these guys again, obviously we picked up their tendencies, they picked up our tendencies. So it's going to come down to who can make the adjustments, the in-game adjustments. And we don't want to have to make those adjustments on Monday. We want to be able to make them during the game. So looking forward to a strategic battle against these guys. I'm sure both teams will come out and play real hard.
Yeah, throw the records out in this kind of situation, right? Got to win in advance. 9-1 versus 7-3 now is 0-0 versus 0-0. So it'll be interesting to see. From your side of things, as you know, any great leader needs great people around him. You put together a phenomenal staff. Like you said, Von Hutchins has been phenomenal. Your coordinators, I think, took a very different approach on both sides of the ball, uniquely than maybe the rest of the league was doing. It stands out from your competition, starting with the offense. I think teams in this league have somehow struggled to punch the ball in the red zone. How has Coach Keiss in this offense just been so damn good when you guys get down to the goal line and even in the red zone?
Yeah, we say to do it in public, you got to do it in private. And we spend a lot of time practicing red zone work and getting a lot of that throughout the week. I think the assistant coaches, one of the real cool things is early on in the week, we call it going into the vault, where everybody goes to their own office. Some guys will get in the office together and watch film, and then it's like you come up with this creative plan that fits our guys and what we do. It's always cool to see Coach Keiss and the offensive guys go into the vault and then come out and see what they've come up with. Obviously, the players, right? Tamu, our quarterbacks, have been playing really good. We had almost 8 games or so without a turnover. But he's been taking care of the ball. When De'Eric comes in, he takes care of the ball. And when we got this opportunity, we had an idea of what we wanted to do offensively. We knew that you still could get away with some of the quarterback runs in this league because it's not as strenuous or 16, 17 games like the NFL. So we figured that, and really Tamu was the guy and De'Eric was the guy. We never thought we'd be able to get both of them, but Coach Keiss and the staff, Shannon Harris, the quarterback coach, they've done a good job of managing it and allowing these guys to go out and play, with the skill sets that they have.
Yeah, I think there was really 2 ways to approach this draft and approach putting the team together. One was the system fit, which you guys have guys who fit your system. Another one was just stack as much talent as possible and hope they come together as a team, which hasn't worked out for everybody. I think you guys handled that the right way. Great balance so far offensively. Losing Raquel Armstead, a bit of surprise to me and some other people. Why is he not with the team anymore? And does it affect this offense going forward in a way where you would say you now have less running back depth than you once had coming into the season?
Yeah, Rockwell is a good young man, and we were happy to have him on our team. He obviously brought value to our team and did some good things for us. But there's some things that happened that forced us to have to go in another direction, which we wish him well. We're pulling for him. Hopefully, he gets another opportunity to show that he can play the game the right way. But we have picked up a running back, Cam, that played at Miami, University of Miami. He obviously is a guy that could run for power and speed, stalky guy. We also have Puka, who plays the running back position as well. So we still have a good mix of guys that we can put back there. And then adding to the run game is with D'Eric and obviously Tamu. So still feel good about those guys. And, we feel like we still can get the job done in the run game.
Absolutely. I was going to say Puka stepping up on special teams last week, and I'm sure that made you proud. It was great in the return game. Either way, whoever steps up, Coach Keiss is our OC of the year. I think he's done a phenomenal job. Switching up to the defense, your defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, I always thought it was so interesting doing research and going back. When you were playing in Jacksonville in the late 90s, he was the defensive coordinator for the Titans in the old AFC Central, which doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
That 99 season was insane in that division. There could be a movie made about it. Jimmy Smith going off, setting like every record. You guys win 14 games, they win 13. How did two guys on each side of that bitter rivalry end up on the same staff in the XFL almost 2 decades later?
Yeah, that was matter of fact, we told the team a story about that today because here we are facing a team for the third time, which we've had success over twice. Back then, the Titans, the only 2 games that we lost in the regular season was to the Titans. And then, of course, we played them in the AFC Championship game. So you got 2 guys that can speak on that type of history and what went into the mindset of both teams and how did it happen. So we shared that with the team this morning. But, yeah, Greg is coach to mentor of mine, Eddie Robinson, a guy that played with us in Jacksonville, but also played for the Titans. And Eddie played in the league, I think, 11 or 12 years. And I think 10 of them Greg was the defensive coordinator. So had some conversations with him about it. Greg and I really spent a lot of time talking, text talking, during the process before we could hire a defensive coordinator. And, obviously we wanted somebody on defense with great experience, a guy with personality and have, that brings that ump about him. And definitely Greg's that guy. Our guys are really bought into his scheme, bought into who he is as a coach. We were playing lights out for a while. We've slipped a little bit here lately, but looking forward to getting back to the way that we play ball on defense.
Absolutely. And touching on that Greg Williams defense, that's a phenomenal story, by the way. Good timing for me to bring that up while I was doing some homework. I want to touch on that secondary a little bit. 3 day one starters out hurt last week. That's Michael Joseph, DeJuan Neal, Kentrell Bryce. What is their status for the game Sunday? And are you confident with the depth in your defensive backfield with some guys banged up?
Yeah, so obviously last week, those guys, we just, at the end of the day, it's about taking care of these guys because they do have the aspiration to go to the next level. And we just want to be smart and not put them in harm's way. So we thought it was best for them to sit last game out. And we did bring in a few guys, but those 2 guys since have gotten hurt. Nicholson was one of them that I think towards Achilles. And then we just had Isaiah to blow out his hamstring this past week. So the good news is those guys, Neil and Mike Joe and Bryce, they'll be back this week. We've seen them today. did a walkthrough. They've moved around pretty good, and looking forward to them getting back in the fold.
Absolutely. And we talked some offense and defense, some old memories from the 90s, and it's time to make some new memories now, right? Let's move on to this game.
Right.
Coach, I think you're forever going to be part of the origin story of the 2023 DC Defenders. What has spread like wildfire all across the DMV, it seems like more and more each week, whether you're a 21-year-old fraternity brother from College Park or a family of 4 from Vienna, Virginia, with young kids bringing your family to the game, you're going to have fun watching this team win in person. They've never lost in Audi Field, dating back to 2020. 18,864 in attendance 2 weeks ago. When you reflect on what you've built and what you've been part of here, what does it mean to you that you've been part of a sports town and part of inspiration that was really looking for the Defenders to be their excuse to get excited about DC sports again?
Yeah, it's humbling actually. We don't take that for granted that we are in this situation. I tell you, when they initially said they give me an opportunity to be a head coach, you start thinking about the teams. And at the time, there was some mention about San Antonio, and I was like, hey, that's what's up. But then when I found out it was going to be DC, and of course, playing in the league and playing against the Commanders back in the day, and just knowing the tradition and history of that town and how much they love their football, how much they love their basketball, hockey, baseball, the Nats. And so I did a little research to look up the last time the DC Defenders was there. And obviously it was, great crowd atmosphere, nice venue. But I never would have thought we would have been able to do what we did a week or two ago with 18,000 folks. It was just an amazing feeling. It was a beautiful day. It's awesome to see those people be able to come out and not have to spend their whole life savings to have a good time, but to come out with their kids, watch the game, get pictures, have some laughs. And they bring the energy. They're enthused. They know when to cheer. They know when not to cheer. They know when to boo. So they've done a good job, man. And our guys feed off of that. And there's nothing like seeing throughout the course of the season, even when it wasn't 18,000, it was still extremely loud in there. So they bring the right energy. And then, we enjoy playing in Audi Stadium. And of course, we really, really appreciate all our fans that come out and support.
Yeah, really, right from the jump, week one of the moments of the year, just the electric atmosphere that stadium provided. And for everybody to be watching, not only from Audi Field, but on a national television audience that night, I think some people really bought into the DC Defenders who didn't maybe take them as seriously as I did back in 2020. By the way, thank you for making me look good. It's a risk, to go on a show and every week wear the hat and have the jersey. And it's like, you don't even know how this team's going to do. I talked to some of your players throughout the year, and there were guys who were like, when we were in training camp, we were still really figuring this out. And we were not sure that we were ready for week one, but you just build and you build and you build. And it's been incredible, Coach. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for not only what you've done for the sport of football in general, but really the entire DMV sports culture. And for those kids in the stands, like Audi Field, I always say has kind of become a second home where they'll grow up a DC Defenders fan and pass that along through the generations. And hopefully this league will go for the next 100 years. Without your leadership and enthusiasm, Coach, that would never happen. Now, I do have to ask here on Springball Boulevard, we like to have fun on the show. Will you make a commitment to give that first honorary cup to the Beer Snake in the playoffs?
Yeah, that would be, obviously, since the championship game is going to be in San Antonio. So this is going to have to be the weekend where we live up to having a beer and really just having a good time. There's so much stuff that has to happen after a game. I'm always wanting to go over there, but, you got to go shake the opposing coach hand and then some players and then the media obligations. And it's like I don't ever make my way over there, but definitely want to be over there. That's a fun spot. I usually do my Beer Snake count at the end of each quarter to see how high has it gotten. So, man, love the way that they have fun at the game.
Well, Coach, like I said, we like to have fun on this show. I love the hoodie. Can you do me one more favor here for our listeners? They've been putting me up to this all week. Can you ask me if I like football?
I tell you what, Matty, I know you do a show and you do a good job, and a lot of our players have been on your show, but I just got one question for you. You like football?
You like football?
I couldn't live without it. And I got one for the Snake, one for the DC Defenders. Coach, let's go win a title, baby. DC, Audi Field.
Let's
Take
go,
it
man.
easy, man. Reggie Barlow. What a hoodie. Enjoying every minute of that interview. I think it was my favorite one this year. I got to say, Zuk, you're going to the game. Will you partake in the Snake?
No, not a chance.
Are your seats in section 137?
They are not. I sprung for the 50-yard line, 4 rows back.
Good, because I pity the sorry Seattle fans who make their way to section 137. This is going to be a beer snake beaten, and I got to get myself a hoodie like Reggie Barlow has.
That was a sweet hoodie.
He put that on for us.
I know.
He's showing out.
For sure.
Reggie Barlow, XFL head coach of the year. That's something Zook can't disagree with me on. It's a regular season award, all right?
Yeah, I won't.
Jim Haslett got his. He was the NFL head coach of the year back in 2000. He had his glory already. It's time for the new school and Reggie Barlow. And speaking of new school, we came into the season, I told you, we tried to get to 55% with our Boulevard best bets. Thanks to Chris Zook, who will eventually be rewarded for his great season.
Wait, say that one more time.
Thanks to Chris Zook, who will eventually be awarded for his great season of 7-3, we have hit 55% on the season. Thank you, Zook, for that. That's all I wanted. People are going to say 55, that's low.
No, it's not.
You don't know betting if you're saying that. It's so damn hard to do this, especially when you got 4 games every week. The NFL gives you 16. Pick your poison. We have 4 games to bet, so you really get, and we don't do like first half props or any of that, or player props. So you're really getting each week 4 sides, 4 totals.
There's a huge reason why I've been really shoving in your face about my 7-3 record.
Well, now you got 2 best bets. So how's this going to change everything for Zook with another street sign on the board? He's just gonna he's gonna cheat and take Seattle money line.
That's not cheating. I got that at plus 145.
Not even taking the point. I mean, you're not even.
I'm not taking the points. What do I always say? And I knew we were going here. I knew it. What do I always say? I'm in the business to make the money.
You're betting with your head and not with your heart.
No, I'm not. So I'm telling you, when I take Seattle money line, I've been taking the points all year. I'm trying to tell the fans something right now. Seattle will be making a trip to Texas in 2 weeks.
Hey, Zook, what happened last time you bet Seattle money line?
I don't remember. I don't recall.
That's right. It was live at halftime at plus 400 in week 8.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're right.
Good price. You lost by 1. Talk
It
about
was a
your
good
other
price.
best bet for a little for a
I
second.
mean,
before we
Houston
continue.
minus 6.5. I'm pretty sure I did a 5 to 7 minute segment on why I thought that was going to happen. This is a no brainer. It's not going to be close, like Matt says. Not at all. I'm serious.
I didn't know we were at each other for this game too.
I'm at it. I'm at you for everything.
I'm not a renegade.
Let's just make sure the viewership is aware. I am 7-3 and holding us above 50%. So choose wisely who you'd like to tail this week. Choose wisely.
It's not a lemon.
Just
If I had
saying.
a lemon, I'd throw
Yeah.
it.
Just saying.
yeah.
What do you got?
Usually we try to collaborate and say, hey, tail everyone. Not this time. Taking Arlington plus 6.5 and DC minus 3. We are exact opposites of each other on the Boulevard this week. Yes, my record is 10-10. It will be 12-10. I have not had luck betting the Arlington Renegades.
Wow.
But this is a different team. And remember what Bob Stoops said. Matty Fresh. That's a hell of a name right there. Bob Stoops. We're running it up. Luis Perez. Let's go. Renegades plus 6.5. Beat them outright if you want to.
Bold. This is bold.
Let me ask you a question, Zook. Let's go through this.
Sure.
We both have Houston. We're obviously different in the North.
Mhm.
Houston, Seattle for you, title game spread.
Houston, Seattle title game spread.
I think Houston was the favorite last time they played.
I'm taking 5. Seattle 5.
Seattle 5. Okay. I guess it obviously depends on how the game goes, who comes out unscathed, and a lot of these teams are one quarterback injury away. Seattle.
Let's
Could be in
remember this.
trouble.
Houston is 7-3, and the only team in the North they beat is Vegas.
Yeah.
They haven't beaten DC, Seattle,
South,
or
though.
St. Louis at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree. I think 5 is fair. On my side of it, if it's Houston, DC, 6.5. I mean,
wow.
the Texas
Okay.
thing it's not going to matter. There's not going to
No,
be
I
any
don't think
kind
it
of home
matters.
field advantage. Yeah, I think. I mean, geez, unless Houston comes out and just smacks Arlington up like 40-7.
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I think DC would be minus 6.5. If it's Houston, Seattle, I mean, obviously I'll cry, but then I'll probably bet Seattle. With
Forgive me for
-5.
saying this. If Houston comes out and smacks Arlington,
Yeah, well, you think they are.
they nut.
Yeah,
That's it. They're done.
right.
They're not doing it back-to-back weeks. They haven't
That's
proven
kind
that
of my
they
thought
can.
on Seattle.
They
That
haven't
they've
proven
had
it.
some of their best performances down the stretch here. And DC's reeling a little bit, right? Had that tough game against Arlington. But
Right. Yeah, you guys are
nonetheless,
just giving up points like you're giving them away.
we can outscore you.
Somehow
It
you're
don't
winning.
matter.
Somehow.
So, some sad news on the Boulevard. Piper has retired for season 1. Not enough action for Piper this week. We showed Piper the card of just 2 games, and she saw us bickering
Right.
against each other. Meanwhile, when we're bickering, that means nobody's letting Piper outside, nobody's getting her a treat, and nobody's giving her a belly rub. So she walked away. And we went back and said, Piper, you got a parlay to bet. She gave us the cold shoulder. Piper's parlay, we had a good run. We hit 2 of them. They were early in the season, so a lot of you people who are joining us late did not get to celebrate Piper's parlay with us. It will be back season 2 because there is no same game parlays on this Boulevard. Get rid of that nonsense. No same gamers. Piper's parlay is done. We're sorry if you were a fan of it. She'll be back. Haven't heard much from her tonight. So we don't know who she's picking, Seattle or DC. We don't know. You can't say. You can't say who she's picking. Piper, our live mascot, for those of you who are very confused. We probably should have had a picture of her up on screen, but you know,
Well, we'll just encourage you to go back and watch other episodes,
Yeah.
and you can see her
give
picture.
Pipe some love. That's going to do it on Springball Boulevard. The Playoff Palooza episode was a success. Thank you for joining us live. Thank you to Luis Perez and Reggie Barlow and the wonderful people in the XFL who make that possible for us to go out and have one-on-ones on Zoom with these coaches and players. Our Springball series has been a success all season, and we hope the XFL will open up the media window for the XFL championship game so that we can maybe do some of these in person, right? You never know. We've had a lot of Zoom work, and obviously these players are in the XFL hub, and they're all in a central location, so tough to track them down in person. But 2 teams will be in San Antonio. I'm calling this weekend the Road to the Alamo. Stay tuned on Monday if we have a show, which, again, the betting favorite says we will, and I can guarantee you we'll be here, even if it means one of us is going to be in some rough spirits. For Chris Zuk in the control room, I am Matty Fresh, and always remember, there is no such thing as football season. Enjoy the XFL playoffs. We'll see you back here Monday night.